Hi, and thanks for joining me. Today we're off in search of Robin Hood, or at least a couple of the little bits that added to the legend. Now he's commonly associated with Nottingham, but there's links further afield, particularly around what was Barnesdale Forest to the northwest of Doncaster. We're heading over to Wentbridge today, and as usual we'll pass through some nice villages and see where else we can find. We're well into winter now, but it's not too bad a day. I'm out on Harold the Himalayan, and we're starting this trip as we head over towards Fish Lake. As you know, it's been pretty wet for weeks, and the River Don's still very full, though it's well within the flood banks at the moment. I come this way quite a lot because I like the lanes out here, and Fish Lake's a nice little village. That's the remains of the old village cross, though there's only the base and the shaft left. It dates from late medieval times and it's Grade 2 listed. This is a much more modern local landmark, and I've shown you this before. That's the Jet Provost. I'm taking a bit of a different route today and turning off left in the village to go up Trundle Lane. Trundle, to move slowly and heavily. Yeah, that sounds about right. Now, I must have been through Fish Lake hundreds of times over the years, but strangely I've never been up Trundle Lane before. All this is new to me, so I don't know what's up here, but it heads in the right direction, so we'll see what we can find. Oh, we've got the remains of another old cross here. This one's also medieval and Grade 2 listed. We're at Kirk House Green, and we're going to be turning right here towards Asen. And now we're back on the lanes that I usually take. This lifting bridge up ahead takes us over the New Junction Canal. This was the very last canal built in Britain for commercial use. It opened in 1905, and it's completely straight for its 5.5 mile length. We're passing through the little village of Moss now, or what used to be the little village anyway. Development over recent years has really spread this village out quite a lot. New houses seem to be cropping up on a regular basis, but then it is quite a nice place to live. This is Asen, and the name comes from the Old English term for a building made of ash, or a building surrounded by ash trees. As we come to the junction here with the A19, there's Asen Lake on the left, with its monument to its mining heritage. There's not much to look at now, but in the Victorian era, this was an extremely popular destination. It's formed by natural underground springs, and the water was supposed to have healing properties. Hotels and guest houses were built round the village centre to cater for all the new visitors, and no less than 5 bathhouses were built here too, and it became known as Asen Spa. All this despite its entry in an 18th century book, Mineral Waters of Yorkshire, by a Dr. Short, who describes the waters as having a most unpleasant odour and taste. Well, that's the Victorians for you, and for quite a number of years, while probably not as fashionable or well known as, say, Harrogate, it was a popular destination for the more well-off Yorkshire gentleman or lady to go to take the waters. We're branching left here up towards Campsall. As we come up the hill out the old village, we're passing the site of Askham Main Colliery. This was sunk in 1911, and a lot of new houses were built for the influx of workers. Unfortunately, these new working people and the well-to-do visitors to the spa didn't sit comfortably together. And this, coupled with the outbreak of war in 1914, led to a huge decline in the use of the spa. The baths and the hotels disappeared. In the 1920s, a coalite plant opened here that produced coke, which is a smokeless fuel. They used the coal mined from the pit. But the coalite plant closed in 1986. The pit had two shafts, and it took its coal from several seams during the life, but following a drop in coal prices that led to serious financial losses, it closed completely in 1991. Today the site's turned into a parkland for the local community. We're at the village of Campsall now, and this is a very old place. The Romans had a small fort a couple of miles to the west, and when they left, a Saxon settlement was established here with a wooden church. After the Norman conquest, a stone church was built. We're just passing it here on the left. This is the church of St Mary Magdalene, and it's our first link with Robin Hood. One of the early ballads about him from the 15th century tells us that Robin Hood built a chapel in Barnesdale that he dedicated to Mary Magdalene. This is the only church in what was the Forest of Barnesdale with that name, so the connection was made. Local legend also has it that Robin and Maid Marian were married here. Records actually show that it was built in the late 11th century by Robert de Lacy, the second Baron of Pontefract. The village was granted a royal charter in 1294, allowing it to have a weekly market and an annual fair, but these had stopped by the 17th century. This is the A639 we've just turned onto that heads up towards Pontefract. We're just passing over the A1 and there's been roadworks on the northbound section here for what seems like years. There's a constant hold-up during the day. Luckily we're turning right to follow the A639 instead of left, or we'd be joining that queue as well. Just down the road is the site of the Battle of Wentbridge that took place in the 7th century. Now this was quite an important battle because it was the final stand by the pagan King Penda, where he was defeated by the Christian King Oswy and saw the demise of Anglo-Saxon paganism in Britain. There's a mound in Wentbridge that's thought to be the remains of an Anglo-Saxon fort. We want to turn right here on the B6474 for Wentbridge, but the signs are saying there's restricted access. Oh well, we'll go anyway and see what it's like, because I don't know another way in from this side without a big detour. Now, at the beginning I mentioned we were on our way to Wentbridge to find out a bit about Robin Hood. So what's that all about? Now, firstly, did Robin Hood actually exist? Well, that's a very difficult, if not impossible, question to answer. It's something that's been debated for centuries, and there's reams of information out there. You could spend a lifetime researching and still not come up with an answer. His exploits have been told and retold countless times over the centuries, and the myths and legends have grown and altered in that time. It's probably one of the best known tales in English folklore. The first clear reference to him appeared in a poem written in the 1370s by William Langland. After that, he crops up in an increasing number of ballads, tales, books, plays and all sorts. What is certain is that both Robert, with its derivative Robin, and Hood were common names around that time, so it's not surprising that many crop up in written records for various reasons. From 1261 onward, the names Robin Hood, Robbie Hood and Robber Hod crop up in the records of several English justices as nicknames or descriptions of criminals. His status changed over time, as the early tales have him as a yeoman, which was a commoner but not as low as a peasant. Jump forward 200 years to the 16th century and he starts getting elevated to a nobleman, and in two plays of the time he appears as the Earl of Huntingdon. This is how he's portrayed in modern stories. A lot of the merry men we're familiar with appear in the early tales, but Maid Marian doesn't turn up until the 1600s. The legend's been around that long that there's numerous places associated with him and his merry men all around Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire. You can visit the Major Oak in Sherwood Forest that he's supposed to have used as a shelter. Little John's grave is supposed to be in Hathersage. The village of Loxley near Sheffield is claimed to be where he was born, and his grave is supposed to be in Kirklees Park Estate. There's Robin Hood's Well near Barnesdale Bar at the side of the A1, not far from here. As we've already seen, there's the church at Campsall where he's supposed to have married Maid Marian. And there's Wentbridge, where we are now, that's claimed to be his early home. Here we are at Wentbridge, and not surprisingly, this is the bridge over the River Went. As you can see, the river's a bit full, like many round the country at the moment. The bridge is mentioned in a 15th century ballad titled Robin Hood and the Potter, where it says, "I met him but at Wentbridge, said Little John." The location's also hinted at in another medieval ballad titled A Guest of Robin Hood. There's a blue plaque on the bridge telling us all about this link. We'll never know exactly how the legend started, but I think we all need some kind of a hero to look up to, and probably more so back in medieval England. I suppose that he was actually their equivalent of our modern Marvel comic superheroes. Truth or fantasy, I don't think it matters, but the fact that the legend has survived and even grown over 700 years says a lot. Anyway, that's it for this trip. I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to head off to some more villages and back lanes, but we'll look at them in a future ramble. Please leave a like, if in fact you did, and a comment, so I always try to answer them. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of my ramblings, and hit the notification button. Hope to catch you on the next one, and cheers for now.